Hi there, greetings and salutations, and happy NBA Finals week. That's the first time in 200-plus episodes we've said that. Derek is stoic. Are you on gummies or something? What is going on?
No, I think you're thinking of Eddie Garrison,
Probably.
your usual producer.
Yeah.
No, I have no problem. I feel like we've talked about this. This is episode 239. I think people know what my stance is, not only on gummies, but just like marijuana and any products like that in general. I am very, very open-minded. If you're a grown adult and you want to take gummies and you want to take edibles and you want to smoke a bowl, go for it. I think there is no problem. I have zero issue with any of that. That is not something that I do. But if you choose to do that and it helps you sleep or it helps you get by and relax after a long day, you should be able to do so. And I have always felt that way, so I'm glad that those things have largely been decriminalized.
I was just referencing the fact that I'd bought a big bag of gummy bears at Haribo the other day.
Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah. See, when I hear gummies in 2025, I'm not thinking about Haribo. I'm not thinking about gummy worms.
But you seem rather stoic. You seem less than thrilled about the fact that the Indiana Pacers.
I'm completely thrilled.
For the second time in NBA franchise history, the second time this century, the Indiana Pacers have roared their way into the NBA Finals. And now they are an underdog, admittedly, but they kind of were against New York. They were against Cleveland. I guess technically were they favored against Milwaukee?
Yeah, I want to say they were a slight favorite against Milwaukee.
Were they the 4 or the 5?
They were the 4 because they had home court.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, here the Pacers are now against Oklahoma City, who is a very, very good basketball team. Indiana may have the advantage in terms of experience, but there's a lot to break down in terms of looking at this pin from Bailey and Wood, our friends at Bailey and Wood. Bailey and Wood's the best, BAWFG.com. But this is blue and orange. I feel like after the Knicks and Oklahoma City,
you're kind of right. I didn't think about that during the Knicks series. It is kind of blue and orange.
We'll do this one. This is blue. This is more Pacer color.
But it's because he's a Gators fan, not because he's a Knicks fan.
I know.
Yeah.
But either way, obviously, Derek, very excited.
Yeah, it's an incredible accomplishment. And think about this, Jake. The Pacers have played 50 NBA seasons, and this is only the second time they've been here.
Yeah.
You know, as good as the 98 team was, and pound for pound, I would argue was better than this team. The 98 team didn't get to the finals. You know, the Paul George, Roy Hibbert, David West teams didn't get to the finals. Reggie Miller, for all of his heroics and all of the amazing things that he did at the Garden and against the Nets and elsewhere, only did this once. So it's an incredible accomplishment that's worth being celebrated and appreciated. I understand that the ultimate goal is to win the championship, and that's what you hang a banner for. But automatically, just the Pacers doing this makes this one of the small handful most elite, most memorable Pacer seasons that we have ever had in Indiana.
I did not realize this until I looked it up last night. The New York Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers, historic franchise, the world's most famous arena, and I think most people would consider it to be like a top 5 franchise, although their record and their success would not indicate that. But nonetheless, the New York Knicks have now played the Indiana Pacers in 9 playoff series. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of history between two teams.
Yeah.
9 times. Off the top of your head, Derek, without looking at it, tell me the record of the Knicks-Pacers playoffs all time.
Pacers are 6-3.
That's amazing, is it not?
Yeah, and they've won
4 in a row,
6 of the last 7. So really, the Knicks won in 93 when they were the top seed in the East. 94 7-game series, the Knicks won. But then ever since then, it's been dominated by the Pacers.
The Pacers now, there is only one NBA franchise who has eliminated the New York Knicks from the postseason more than the Indiana Pacers. Only one. You want to guess?
Bulls did it 5 times.
There's one team that's done it 7 times.
Celtics?
Yes.
Just because of the history, yeah.
The old Celtics.
Just because of the history. Yeah. That makes sense.
But that is remarkable, though, and this is the thing. This team, this Indiana Pacer team there are teams in sports that you root for, that you like because they got really good because they made a trade for a player late in the year, or things fell their way and everybody else around them got hurt. Whatever. And then there are teams that organically, piece by piece, come together because they are selfless to the point of The sum being better than individual parts, even though the individual parts are very good. This Pacer team may not be the best head-to-head that's ever represented Indiana in the NBA, but I think it's one that this city should be the most proud of. Because while those teams were great with Reggie and Dale and Rick, those were great teams as well. This particular team, just their depth, their camaraderie, their selflessness, and the way that they play and block out the noise and don't pay attention and just go win games and never count themselves out is a fabulous story. And it goes all the way from Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton to, you go all the way. Tony Bradley came in and gave them good minutes. Thomas Bryant. I mean, every guy whose number was called. It is difficult to find a single player on this roster who underachieved in the postseason.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And every guy that they put on the floor contributed something positively.
Right.
Like, I don't think going into this year or going into this postseason, you thought, hey, Thomas Bryant is going to play
we need to change that graphic, by the way.
And valuable.
Imminently.
Oh, yeah, no, it's Pacers are 6-3 against the Knicks all time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't notice that. Good
that
catch.
Is a
can
glaring,
we get that
glaring
in post?
error.
We get that in post? My B. Oh, it's Charlie. Okay, yeah, it's Gen Z on the graphics today. Yeah.
I don't know.
We gotta relate to them. So let me speak it in Charlie. Can we skibbity the Riz of the Sigma on Pacers Knicks? I think that's how you say it. Skibbity. There's something about skibbity Riz. Ohio. Something about Ohio.
Yeah. Skibbity ba.
Something Ohio.
You say that.
You're way too old for this conversation. Like, I can at least somewhat do it, but you've aged out.
You're more gray than I.
You've aged out. It's a great accomplishment too, because we talked about this with Indy 500 winners. You don't fluke into a finals run. Like, the Pacers were better than the Bucks. The Pacers were better than the Cavs. And the Pacers were better than the Knicks. And yes, you can look at individual things like, look, game one at the Garden with Aaron Nesmith hitting 6 threes in a row and Haliburton shot that hits off the back rim and it magically, okay, yes, you do need luck sometimes, right? And Milwaukee collapsing at the end of game 5 in the final 40 seconds of overtime and the offensive rebound situation and not being called for lane violations and things like that against Cleveland. Yes, I'm not disputing the fact that the Pacers had a little bit of good fortune and a little bit of luck in those specific comeback wins. But you look at those series as a whole, Jake, they were better than the team that they played. They didn't win they didn't win against the Cavs because of what happened in game 2. They won because they ran them off the floor in the other games for the most part.
Right. No, you're right.
The Knicks too, that was a more competitive series, but you saw it. The Knicks were throwing everything they had at the Pacers. They were trying everything they could to figure out, how do we beat these guys? And they still couldn't do it. And then in the Milwaukee series, I mean, it was pretty clear that they were the better team. I don't think that there was even much of a dispute there. So I think for those reasons, it should be appreciated as well. The whole like built not bought and the Pacers built the right way, I don't really care about any of that. For me, it's results. You know what I mean? What did you do with it? And the Pacers obviously have done a lot with the results that we've seen so far.
One thing, if I'm going to be a downer, there's one thing that happened to Indiana that I think that has me concerned. Aside from Oklahoma City. We're going to take Oklahoma City out.
Okay. Moving forward?
Yes. There's one thing that happened on Saturday night that instantly I thought, if this was the X-Post Twitter, I'd bookmark this because I want to go back to it. Because this is going to be
the Jarris Walker injury?
Yes. He was not a critical piece, Derek, but what Oklahoma City has, the Pacers have won 3 playoff series now because 3 different teams have been completely befuddled as to how to play Indiana. New York was not used to seeing a point guard pressed full court. Cleveland was not used to seeing a team that played at that kind of pace and that fast. Milwaukee was not used to seeing guys fresh in the fourth quarter because they were constantly rotating bodies through. Oklahoma City does all of those things and does them just a little bit better. The one thing Oklahoma City has over Indiana is size. at a lot of positions. And Jarris Walker is a guy that, yes, I'm probably talking 18 minutes, 12 to 18 minutes a night. But that, I think the difference is so finite, and you need every advantage possible, that when you have an additional body and an additional 6 fouls to work on and try to slow down Oklahoma City's backcourt, and Jarris Walker has the body that can slide up to help do that or slide back and help on the wing as well and occasionally hit a three-pointer for them, I think not having that there is the kind of little finite difference that could really hurt them.
Maybe. I mean, you're not really talking about like 18 minutes. You're talking more like 8 or 9 minutes, really, for Jarris Walker. I mean, he's a deep rotational player. Yes, he has been
wasn't
playing
early in the playoffs, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, he has been at least seeing the floor, but you're talking about your 10th guy, probably.
But what I'm saying is this is a series more than any other where I think you have to go 10.
Yeah, because Oklahoma City is super deep. I mean,
Right.
it reminds me a lot of the Cleveland series, but you swap Cleveland's here's what you do. You give Oklahoma City basically just as good of an offensive Cleveland, maybe slightly less, and an even better defense.
Their defense is
like it's historically good. It's not just good, it's historically good.
Yes.
So when I looked at the Cleveland-Indiana matchup, I thought to myself, God, I don't know where the Pacers' advantage is here. And the things that showed out were their depth, even though Cleveland was supposed to be deep. Cleveland's depth didn't show out in that series like Indiana's
show
did.
out.
And
Is that another? That's a kid phrase, right?
yeah, Gen Z, skibbity. Sigma.
What gen are you?
I'm an old millennial. Millennials started, I think, in 81, and I was born in 83.
And I'm Gen X.
Yes.
Okay.
Millennial was 81 to 91, I think, or 81 to 90 is millennial.
Who determines the bracket on
I don't know.
generations?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Who's between the Boomers and the Gen X?
Boomers and Gen X. Oh, I don't think there is one. Is there?
Well, Boomers is a long time then.
Yeah, Boomers is a long time. Sorry, I got
Boomers is what, like 40 years, and then everybody else got 10? How'd that work?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking this
Yeah,
up.
you can look that up and we can talk more about it. But
It's a good conversation.
looking at if we're gonna like shift our attention over to Oklahoma City, it's tough to find areas where the Pacers have a true advantage. I think what you would hope for in this series, if the Pacers are to win, it's that their offense is so unorthodox and so difficult to prepare for.
Boomers was only from 46 to 64. Generation X is 65?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
60
yeah. I mean, you were born in 72, right?
I was right in the
Yeah.
middle of Gen X.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then was I right with millennials?
We're now in Generation Beta.
81, 90?
Which one?
Millennial?
81 to 96.
96. Okay, so it's longer than I thought. Okay. But I'm technically an old millennial. So Vince and I are both in the same generation. That's weird. Yeah. Because he's a baby to me.
Yeah, he's not gray like you.
Fair. I think what
Thinning a little bit too. Have you noticed?
it's because the spotlight goes right on my. Obviously, I have thinner hair up here, like most males do in their 40s. But it's because the spotlight goes right here. That's why it looks like I'm almost like cue ball bald here, and I'm not. It's thinned out. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It's darker than you would think. It looks better than you think. Like yours, because you're taller than me, the spotlight doesn't hit right on it. But you've got thin hair up here too, but it's covered. Like you don't have a bald spot.
No, I'm thin. Like I look.
You're
at
thin, but you don't have a bald
Somebody
spot.
will send pictures. And I'm like, whoa, really?
Yeah, but Jake, most people your age have a bird's nest right there, where it's just skin.
How am I looking there?
It's fine. It's thin, but it's covered, that's all you can hope for.
Do I look like I'm eventually going to get that? Do you think
Pacers are in the finals. Can we talk
do you think
about
I've
this?
made
here?
it through? No, but my looks are
because the
very
Pacers are in the finals, so
I
I
know.
want to talk about that.
I mean, the Pacers are still a week from now. They're still going to be in the finals.
But we have 1 hour a week with these people, and I want to provide a sports talk show.
Understood, but I want to make sure on this.
Okay.
Do you think I'm through the like?
Why does it matter? You've been with Shannon for 300 years. Who cares?
I care.
Everybody thinks you're great and awesome and amazing and probably good looking. I mean,
Probably. I want.
Who cares?
Because I want Shannon to be proud of this. Right?
She wouldn't still be here if she wasn't inexplicably proud of this. Okay? I think what you hope for is that the Pacers' offense is so unorthodox and so difficult to prepare for and so difficult to execute against. Like Oklahoma,
but that's Oklahoma City. The problem is, Derek, this is the Spider-Man gif, right? These are two teams that their strength is the same thing. Oklahoma City plays at a fast-paced. They have size at position, but they run fast and they defend really hard.
I just think the reason why you would automatically go to Oklahoma City as the favorite and why they should be favored is because I think the offenses are pretty much the same as far as effectiveness, but defensively, even though the Pacers have improved on that end, defensively they're just so much better than everybody else. They're so much better than everybody else, not just the Pacers, the whole league. And so that's what makes it kind of difficult, but that historic defense is based on playing teams who aren't the Pacers. They played 2 games against – they won both. They played 2 games against the Pacers, though, this year. And now they're going to have to play 5, 6, maybe 7 games against the Pacers. And I just think it's a whole different ball of wax because this Pacers offense is just very, very difficult to play.
Let me ask you this about Oklahoma City. And I give them credit on this. I'm going to name a professional sport franchise, Derek, and I want you to tell me from where they previously existed.
Okay.
Tennessee Titans.
Houston Oilers.
Baltimore Ravens.
Cleveland Browns.
Texas Rangers.
Senators?
Correct.
Okay.
I
so
feel
Washington,
like,
sorry,
I
DC.
feel like Oklahoma City and the Thunder are completely in every way, shape, and form detached from the Seattle Supersonics.
Well,
I don't hear anybody, like young kids, I don't think have any idea.
No.
They literally do not, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Their colors are different. You almost forget that Kevin Durant played a year in Seattle.
They're holding the history for an expansion franchise, assuming that there's eventually an expansive franchise in Seattle, then they're going to hand it off. At least that's my understanding. Oklahoma City and their fans want nothing to do with Seattle's history.
Right.
And Seattle is very defensive about it. They don't want someone else to have their history. And if we're being honest, I don't want to get into, get down a slippery slope here. If we're being honest, that's the way that the Colts should have approached it with Baltimore.
Yes, of course.
If we're being honest.
Of course.
Yeah, but people get defensive about that. Raymond Berry has nothing to do with Indianapolis, Indiana. No fan in Indianapolis. Can we get on me just real quick? No fan in Indianapolis cares about Raymond Berry. Yeah. And you wonder now that Jim has passed away. I mean, they're probably going to keep the Baltimore history now forever. But, Jim Irsay was really the last link to that.
No, that's fair.
We haven't talked about that yet because, obviously he just passed. And we're just getting through the remembrances and all of that. But, that's part of it too. But, yes, I mean, technically speaking, the Oklahoma City Thunder franchise has been to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, they went in whatever year that was. What was that? 11, right? Or no, 12. Yeah, 11 was the Mavericks. 12 was the first Heat title, was the Harden, Westbrook, Durant Thunder team. But they won it all in basically the most forgettable era of the NBA, the late 70s, one of those years.
77?
It was either 77 or 78. The Bullets won one.
I know.
It was like
the Blazers were in there too.
They were worried that the league was about to shut down. That's how bad things were for the league.
I think it was 77 Portland, 78 Seattle, 79 Washington.
Maybe that's right. Well, 79 was the Lakers, right? Didn't the Lakers win one and then they drafted Magic and then they won another one?
I think you're right.
Let me look it up. List of NBA champions.
How about this, Derek? While you're doing that, I will ask this question.
Okay.
Can you name for me the years that the...
No, you're right. Sorry. You're right. 77 Portland, 78 Washington, 79. Lakers won in 80. Okay, that's... So Magic's rookie year they won. For some reason, I thought they had won the year before. I don't know why I thought that.
They were very good, though.
Okay.
And they slipped into the number one. Okay, here you go. Can you tell me, Derek Schultz, I'm going to right now put up $1 million that you get this incorrect.
Okay.
I need you to put on your little thinking cap.
Okay. It's a big thinking cap.
Including this year. Can you tell me the years that the NBA Finals were played in Indianapolis, Indiana?
2000.
Correct.
2025.
Correct.
I don't know. There was another year where they played in Indy. NBA. 1954. The Fort Wayne Pistons played in the NBA Finals.
In 1955, the Fort Wayne Pistons made the NBA Finals against the Syracuse Nationals, but they were building the Fort Wayne Coliseum and did not think the team was good enough to get into the playoffs, so they did not schedule the completion of the field house until after the NBA Finals. Thus, the Fort Wayne Pistons played the NBA Finals home games at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.
You almost owed me $1 million. I was 1 year off.
Well,
I mean, I was just making an educated guess. I knew that
correct.
The Fort Wayne Pistons had made the NBA Finals, and it's logical to think that they would have maybe played. I had never heard that before.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's
a
wild.
great trivia question.
Yeah, really great trivia question.
But anyway, it is. Look, it's super exciting. I mean, all the kidding aside, all the flippancy, all the distractions. This is, and I want people to pay attention here. I think in the year 2000, when the Pacers made the NBA Finals and they were going up against the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq. And, I was still an adult at that time, obviously. But I think I became so absorbed in the finite nuance of, like, winning a championship and what that would mean and everything else that I didn't stop to just soak it all in. And I'm asking the people of Indianapolis and the Pacers fans in the state of Indiana, of course, I want more than life itself to see the Pacers win an NBA title. But soak it in and enjoy it. Go to downtown Indianapolis. Go to viewing parties. Go and, if they win, go downtown. Go to the parade, whatever it may be. But each thing that comes with this, just take a moment to soak it in and absorb it, because it's only happened twice in my lifetime, 3 times in the history of the city, and one of those is just because an arena up in Fort Wayne wasn't completed yet. It's special. It's historic. It's a special group. They are young. There's no reason to believe that this group will not be held together and they will not have more cracks at it, but you never know that because the East is loaded. And Oklahoma City's in a much better situation because they're young, they're loaded, and they still have like 37 draft picks. But for the Pacers, this may be it. Maybe they will get another crack. It's hard to say this is the start of any sort of a dynasty because Cleveland's good, and New York's going to make changes, and Boston still has talent. It is a special opportunity. It's fun, and I don't even care if they get swept. Enjoy all 4 games. Enjoy all 6. Enjoy all 7, whatever it may be, and soak it in.
Yeah, I'll definitively say they won't get swept.
I think that's fair.
I don't think they'll get swept. I don't think they'll allow themselves to be swept. But yeah, I 100% agree with everything that you just said. The whole like dynasty thing, to me, it's just in the moment. How many teams have we declared, hey, they're here now, and watch out, they're going to be here
Miami,
for a while.
Not 6, not 7, not 8.
Well, no offense, but the 2006 Colts.
Yeah.
Colts fans, one of my favorite stories, and we actually brought him up on the show the other day, a really good buddy of mine watched the Colts-Bears Super Bowl at Hoagies in Bloomington and blacked out in the second half. He drank so much. He woke up the next day, and I went over to TJ's place, and he was crashing on the futon, and I was like, hey, man, like, Kelvin Hayden had this interception. He ran it back for a touchdown. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, it was great. And then in the rain, and then Peyton hoisted the trophy and the whole deal, and he's like, it's no big deal, dude. Like, they're going to win, like, at least 2 more. And here we are 20 years later, and that's the one. Like,
right.
you should never assume, even the Thunder, who have an unbelievable young core, you should never assume that.
Well,
just
I'm sure people thought when Durant, Harden,
you're going to win like
Westbrook,
3 out of the next 5 championships or something like that. Or we should even assume that the Pacers are going to end up here again with this group. I don't know that. It'd be awesome, and I wouldn't bet against it because I think they're that good. But you gotta live in the moment and do it now, not start thinking about dynasties and things like that, and that these franchises are going to. You know how much good fortune and timing and circumstance it took to get the Pacers and Thunder here? It took a lot, right? Hell, Denver fired their coach halfway through the season, and Denver fought them like hell. So I understand why the Thunder are favored. And, gun to my head, if I'm looking at these teams objectively on paper, the pick is the Thunder, right? But the Pacers just have so much of this like weird like karma, juju, the crazy comebacks and things like that I'd be very wary about betting against them. Also, they're better than Minnesota. They're better than Denver, and they're better than Memphis. And those are the 3 teams that Oklahoma City has faced so far.
You know Michael Rappaport?
Yeah, sure I do.
He did a really funny podcast yesterday, which I'm probably going to play.
Is he still a Knicks guy? Wasn't he a huge Knicks fan? Yeah,
big.
okay.
He did this whole thing, and I would play it here except for that he says profane words every other word. But he's talking about Indiana. He's like, look, and I'll use the word forget, okay? He says, forget Indiana, forget their jump shots, forget Larry Bird, forget Damon Bailey, forget Steve Alford, forget Isaiah Thomas. You know, he's going on and on about how – and then he stops midway through it and he says, but they're the better team. The Knicks lost to a better team. He's like, they were fast the whole time. The Knicks couldn't keep up with it. He's like, they're deeper. They're a better team.
That's why Knicks fans are so frustrated. I mean, I think that they – deep down, they can say all they want about, oh, Tom Thibodeau should have done this and that, and Cat, and he doesn't care, and he's not a winner. They got beat because they got beat. I don't think there was anything they could have done in that series. I mean, they could have had the Pacers make fewer threes in Game 6, I guess. But how do you do that? How do you control that? The Pacers generate great looks and open looks all the time. They do that against everybody.
I do like Jalen Brunson.
I like anybody that
he's a heck of a player.
Puts their team on his back. And I'll say this, Jake, like, I don't think that was a series where the officiating, you know, Pacers fans are always going to complain about the officiating. It's a tale as old as time. I don't think the officiating played much of a factor at all in that series.
When you watch the Knicks the last 2 years, don't you think to yourself, how did Villanova not, like, win 80 games in 2 years?
Yeah, but, I mean, they were really good.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They were really good. I think
well, obviously, I mean,
I think watching the Knicks-Pacers series this year, if you were a Knicks fan, it made you lament losing last year more. Because last year was the opportunity for them. They were up 2-0. They were in control of Game 3 late. If they win that game, the series, it's curtains, right? You're not coming back from 3-0, and they blew it. And even then, they had a home Game 7. I know they were
you're right.
injured.
And they got blown out of the building. Yeah.
And they got run off the floor.
Yeah. All right, we got more to get to?
Yeah. In fact, we have our Hoagie and Hero of the Week to get to. Let's do that.
Oh, you do that, and I'll enjoy the Mama Tried. Mama Tried, which you've had before, is a deep Mexican lager from our friends at Chili Water right next door to Hoagies and Hops. Of course, Chili Water also with a location right off of Fountain Square. But this is fabulous because it's a dark Mexican lager, 5.8% ABV. But that dark is not like a dark roast dark. I mean, that's a smooth beer is what that is.
Like, you could drink this on the porch in the summertime.
No question.
Yeah, whereas sometimes, you know, like you have like a stout.
And it's more like
somebody
winter.
hands you a Guinness and it's July and you're like, I don't want this. No, it's a delicious beer. And what I have here is not even a Hoagie. It's a dog. We've been featuring the dogs a lot here lately. This is the Hallie dog, the Haliburton. What the Hallie? What the Helly? So we've got a dog, right? Bacon bits. Whiz, banana pep on a beautiful, soft hot dog bun.
Where are my banana peppers?
I don't think you like them.
Banana peppers?
Yeah.
Every pizza I get banana peppers. Where you been?
There's some in the break room. I'm sorry, you have the palate of a 7-year-old. So anytime that we do the Hoagies, I'll let you guys in behind the curtain. So Christina has all these Hoagies on her menu, and it's got all kinds of stuff. It's got mustard, it's got mayo, it's got whiz, it's got bacon, it's got onion, it's got peppadoo pep, banana pep, whatever else. I always stick to her menu. No additions, no substitutions, no subtractions. So if I'm getting a Dutch country at Hoagies and Hops, I'm eating it as it appears on the menu. If I'm getting an Always Sunny, I'm eating it as it appears on the menu. For Jake, a lot of times, like with the Keystone. You know, Keystone's very simple, right? LTO, mayo, chi.
Lettuce, tomato, onion.
Yeah, prove.
Mayonnaise.
Very simple. For Jake, I just put literally prove and roast beef. London broil. That's it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want mayo, he doesn't want tomato, he doesn't like lettuce. Oh, the lettuce makes the bread soggy or whatever else. I don't like onion. I've got what's that? Not dyslexia. Dyslexia of the lungs. Tuberculosis. What do you have? The thing where you have the pockets in the lungs, you can't have anything.
Diverticulitis.
Yeah, whatever it is. Diverticulitis. Yeah, I've got that. I'm old. So now the one time I take something off that I just assume that you don't like, you bust my chops about it.
I need you to keep a better running order of things I like, if you could.
I have a better running order of the things you don't like. Because that's what I'm concerned about.
Is that because you're the top of the list?
Not the stuff that you like. Hero of the week. Kevin Pritchard. Kevin Pritchard's hero of the week. Self-explanatory. I mean, we can launch into a discussion about this, but look at this roster. Look at what we just talked about. Every single player they put on the floor contributes in a positive way. Think about where the Pacers would be without Thomas Bryant. You know, their backup big situation was, Isaiah Jackson and Wiseman and
Tony Bradley.
Yeah.
He came in and gave them good minutes, right?
But they had a really tough situation with their backup big, and it wasn't working, and they had to make a move. I don't even remember, was it Moses Brown? Is that who they had?
Yeah.
They had to make a move, and they did, and honestly, I don't think it's a stretch. I'm not just saying this because he played at IU and because I liked him. I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Pacers maybe aren't here without Thomas Bryant. Seriously. That's how important that he's been, and it's just, as much as we want to focus on Haliburton, and Siakam was tremendous. Siakam, the Knicks had no answer for him. They couldn't match him. They couldn't guard, and they've got Bridges and Anunoby. They got guys that can defend.
Right.
And they had nothing for Siakam in that series. As much as we talk about those guys, the Pacers' success is built on the fact of having Mathurin come in and light it up off the bench, or Obi Toppin makes a couple of big plays, or Andrew Nembhard makes a big shot or two.
Here's where Kevin Pritchard gets the most credit. The Pacers roster is made up primarily of players that may have been Indiana's plan B, or players that were dismissed by other teams because they weren't even in plan A or B.
Yeah.
And, Tyrese Haliburton's a wonderful talent, and I'm not saying Sacramento gave up on him, but the Pacers had to make the decision to part ways with Domas Sabonis, who was a very, very good player and still is for Sacramento, but was limiting the way in which Indiana could play. So they go and they get Haliburton, and, you've seen what's happened. Aaron Nesmith was buried in Boston, and they had Malcolm Brogdon, who was a very good player and was thought to be an important piece for them, and they took a leap of faith that Aaron Nesmith would pay off for them. Obi Toppin couldn't crack the rotation in New York, so they gave up a bag of donuts and got him, and he was a difference maker in that game. The list goes on and on. I mean, the way that this team, and Kevin Pritchard deserves a ton of credit because this is the third installment, at no fault of his, of what he's tried to do. He tried to build a Paul George team, and Paul George then lied to him. He tried to build a Victor Oladipo team, and Oladipo got hurt and then flaked out. And then he turned around and he tried it again with Tyrese Haliburton, and here they are.
Yeah.
And those were things where he had to make those adjustments, and he did so. And they deserve a ton of credit too, as well as Chad Buchanan and Ryan Carr and Herb Simon, and just the overall brass of having the patience, the scouting, the homework to make it all necessary and make it all possible. And
basically, it comes down to every move that they've made since 21 has worked.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And that's hard to do. I mean, remember the conversation that we were having 5 years ago when they went on that string of drafting, when it was like TJ Leaf and Aaron Holiday, and Goga's turned into a decent NBA player, right? But here he was just kind of He was just a depth guy. Chris Duarte had that good first year, but then really wasn't a fit after that. And now, not that it's been heavily on the draft picks, but Mathurin and Shepard and guys like that, those are guys that have helped you ultimately. And Isaiah Jackson, those are guys, I know he's hurt right now, but those are guys that have helped you kind of along the way. And then the trades kind of speak for themselves. But Pritchard's always, to me, Jake, so much of it is just luck. And Kevin Pritchard was a great executive in Portland who had terrible luck.
You're right.
And a lot of what happened with the Pacers in the first 5, 6, 7 years under Pritchard, yes, he made some bad moves. I'm not going to sit here and defend TJ Leaf, but a lot of it was luck. A lot of it was just Oladipo and the injury and Paul George wanting out and having to, make trades and rebuild on the fly. I felt for him, and now the luck is going the other way, where it's ending up working out. But I also want to give credit to the player development for the Pacers. Like, guys have gotten here and they've gotten better. That doesn't just happen. Aaron Nesmith wasn't earmarked to be a really good NBA starter. Andrew Nembhard wasn't earmarked to be a really good defender and two-way player. those guys became those things because of how they were developed. So that's coaching staff, that's personnel, that's an organizational thing. Not just the GM, not just the head coach, but everybody. And I think the Pacers deserve credit for that as well. But it's a great organization, because you're basically married into it. A lot of smart and talented people.
One of the things, Derek, that makes this team special is that you have a lot of players on the roster that feel indebted to the franchise because they gave them a new lease. Aaron Nesmith got a new lease here. Tyrese Haliburton got a new lease here. Miles Turner had a nonstop belief in him.
Toppin.
Obi Toppin got a new lease here. T.J. McConnell got a new lease here. Thomas Bryant got a new lease here. Right? And those guys are paying that belief back.
Hoagiesandhops.com, 42nd and Boulevard, southwestern edge of Midtown. They also do catering. And Mama Tried, Chili Water Tap Room for our friends
Christina's
at Chili
the
Water.
best. I mean,
well.
Hoagies
She's
and
awesome.
Hops is I love everything about it.
They're super geeked up about a finals, too.
Oh, it's great.
We come back. Jim Irsay's private memorial service was yesterday. We'll discuss that briefly. More about the NBA. And I have a weird pet peeve. Usually it's Jake that brings up the weird pet peeves. And I want to know if you think it's weird.
Okay.
And it came up completely randomly the other day on a Pacers social media post.
Okay.
We'll talk about that, too. It's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back, Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Thanks to our great sponsor, presenting sponsor Bailey & Wood Financial Group, BAWFG.com, 855-350-HOME for our friends at Bailey & Wood Financial Group. I actually saw a big sign of theirs. My son had a Little League tournament thing down on the south side in Center
You didn't
Grove.
post video.
I don't. I take video so I can send it to my mother-in-law, and they're huge baseball fans, so they love the fact that James loves baseball, and I send it to them, and sometimes I'll send it to my parents, but I don't send on Instagram like game changer clips of my son. It's just a personal choice that I make.
Keep grinding.
Again, to each their own. That's not something I do. No one cares about my 8-year-old getting a hit in a game, except for me and his grandparents and his mom. That's it. And his coaches, I guess. But they're already seeing it. They don't need the video clip. They're seeing it happen in live time.
You're not reviewing film sessions?
No.
Bat velocity?
No, we're not.
Directional swing? Angle?
No.
Footwork? Hope your kid enjoys it at 8.
James enjoys baseball, and I want to push him. You know what I mean? We both want to push him to be competitive and be a good athlete and all of that. But it's not something that is going to dominate our lives. It's not. I want to encourage anything. If he gets into robotics, I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not approaching this as like getting him a swing coach and all that other stuff. Like it's not ever going to be that level.
Unless you're approaching his swing like it's robotics, then don't plan on making the 9-year-old team.
Again, this is not me being holier than thou. This is a decision that we made years ago that we weren't going to do this and be like that. And if you are that way, then that's great. It's your kid, it's your life. Do whatever you want, but that's just not how we're approaching it. And luckily, we haven't really run into that a whole lot as far as like the whole like cutthroat. we had a team that we played, that his team played over the weekend that had a guy that looked like Tony Kanaan as their head coach. And he was very upset with the first baseman at one point. And at the end of the day, I was kind of like, dude, he's 8.
Yeah, I mean, give me a break.
Yeah,
right?
like I know he, didn't cover or didn't back up where he should have backed up on that play, but he's 8. Like, come on, man. Like they're little kids at this point. But anyway, long story short, I saw the Bailey and Wood sign down in the fields of the Center Grove complex, which was really cool. BAWFG.com, 855-350-HOME, pre-approval for your home mortgage. Or if you want to refi, go ahead and call our friends at Bailey and Wood Financial Group. The Jim Irsay private memorial was yesterday. We're taping this right now, early Tuesday morning at St. Luke's. And, good for closure, to close the book. It's wonderful. I think it's what we would all want. Obviously, none of us are going to be remembered like Jim Irsay was remembered, where thousands of people or hundreds of people gather. But everybody deep down wants that, right? Of course. You want people to remember you and have positive things to say about you and feel impacted by you somehow when you're no longer here. And so it was nice to have that. And, the Colts on the field, it's almost not even, it's very rarely a topic in June anyway, because this is kind of a dead period. But, next steps and ownership and how the organization is going to look, Jake, I still feel like we're like a week and a half, 2 weeks since his passing.
I think that's fair.
And I still feel like
that's fair.
That's off in the distance.
The one thing that I will say about Jim Irsay and his passing, aside from the things that we've said about him as the man, is the fact that there is part of me, I thought about this, of while you may have at times felt that he meddled too much or, whatever it may be, there was never a doubt that the football franchise was being led by somebody who had a passion and a long-standing heritage and understanding of the game of football. I'm not saying that his daughters don't get me wrong, but there was a security blanket of knowing for most of the time that Jim Irsay was the owner that he, if the buck came to him to make a final decision, that he was going to make one that he thought was a football decision. And his daughters may well have that same intention. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But that's one thing where it does feel like there's a little bit of a question now of just, okay, is now everything stopping with somebody whose love is football? Because that man loved football.
Yeah, and it's not I don't want to present it as a gender thing. Like,
I totally agree. Totally
right?
agree.
Like, he's a guy and they're girls. So what do they really know about football?
I totally agree with that.
What I would say is, even if it was 3 sons that were taking over the team,
would be hard.
No one could fill his shoes.
Correct. No one could love the game the way he
Jim
did.
Irsay.
Correct.
Jim Irsay is the only person that could be Jim Irsay. And I think that's where the concern is.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because as much as this franchise has struggled and there's been controversy and tumult and all of those things, you always knew at the end of the day that Irsay had done it before. So you felt comfortable that he would know what he was doing.
Right.
His decision-making was not infallible, right? Like, we criticize Jim Irsay all the time. We criticize everybody with the organization all the time on this show. But I think there was a sense of comfort in knowing, hey, they've been there, done that. They had the winningest decade. You know what I mean? Like, there's a track record there that they can lean on, whereas there is no track record with the 3 daughters because they haven't done it before.
Right.
Not in this capacity. They haven't done it before. So I think that's how I would explain that. But, yeah, it's been great to see the remembrances, and I penned a little thing for IBJ about him as a sports owner. I thought he was a great sports owner at the end of the day,
Derek,
because
I'll
his
tell you,
priorities were what you would want out of your sports owner.
Do you know one person that, and I should have said this earlier, one person that a lot of people in this town may not totally grasp or understand probably the condolence and just the overriding level of emotion that goes into all of it for him is Pete Ward. Mm-hmm. Pete Ward, for those that are unfamiliar, has been the right-hand man of Jim Irsay since the time the Mayflowers arrived. He came from Baltimore. I'm not even certain of his exact title, but he's the top rung of the Colts organization.
COO, right?
Is he the COO? That's
Chief Operating Officer?
Yeah, I think that was
his
CEO.
title.
He was very high up. But in addition to that, he was a loyal friend, companion, co-worker, supporter, pillar for Jim Irsay in every way, shape, or form. And that put him oftentimes in very difficult positions, and it also at times I think stretched Pete Ward to this dichotomy where he had to mix between being an intermediary for some people of Jim Irsay, an explainer, or some could even say an apologist for him at times, but he was loyal and fair to everyone throughout it. And I would imagine that it's a very difficult time for him, and because we as a city talk about the loss of what it means for the city to lose Jim Irsay, I think we lose sight of what it means to the people who were close to him to lose a person in their life, and Pete Ward would be at the top of that list.
I mean, if you want to comp, and this is going to sound nefarious because I'm comparing it to the Mafia, but it works. He was Irsay's consigliere, right?
Right.
Totally. Irsay's the head of the family. Everything went through Pete, a lot of it.
Correct.
And you feel for the people that were really, truly close to him. And he had a big circle, but he had an inner circle that knows where all the bodies are buried, good and bad.
Right.
And Pete would have been in that latter category. Like there's a whole different category of people that were close to him. Like if you had, you won one of his trivia contests or you got to hang out with him in the suite one time, like good for you, but that's not the same level of connection as some other people had. But rest in peace once again. I know that we kind of did the remembrance of Jim Irsay the last episode, but since the memorial service happened yesterday.
Who's your Pete
I'm
Ward?
going to mention it. The consigliere?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one. Completely insulated.
Okay. Who would you say is my Pete Ward?
Man, I mean, the first, and you you have a big inner circle, which I'm a part of. I'd say Byron.
Okay.
That would be. I think it depends on the topic. I think you're one of those people that, depending on which category of your life we're talking about, you have a different go-to person for that specific category.
That's probably true.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's an assumption on my part. I don't know.
No,
that.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Because that's how big you're. Like you have like 9 best friends. So
correct.
Depending on what the topic is, or hey, I'm having a problem with this person, so I'm going to call this person because they're closer to the situation,
Correct.
or this
That's
person.
fair.
Then okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
And just so you know, you are maybe cut line Usher, maybe.
Look, we can present it publicly. I understand that publicly you don't want to present it as such, but I know how it is privately. So we could joke about like Corey Schultz, like Jake doesn't really love Derek and things like that. Like I know how it is privately. I remember the conversation.
What's going on here?
Falls Church, Virginia. Do you know anybody in Falls Church, Virginia? I don't know anybody there.
Yeah, I do. Falls Church, Virginia.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Falls Church, Virginia. When I was a kid during the Iran hostage situation, my mom bought bracelets for us all, and mine. The gentleman was from Falls Church,
really?
Virginia.
Okay.
Truthfully, yeah.
There you go. Maybe it's him calling from the grave.
I think he's still living.
Okay, good. I remember the conversation like 12 hours after your heart attack on the hospital bed.
Yeah, no.
And you called me. It was Saturday night. It was the Michael Penix reach for the pylon game against Penn State. It was the Big Ten opener for all teams. And we had a long phone conversation. We laughed. We cried.
No.
You were like, when they were driving me there, I thought to myself, I never got to tell you what you mean to me. I don't want to share the whole thing. Like we can even take that out in post. I don't even want to insinuate that, but that's what I remember about our relationship. So you can present it publicly however you want, but I know what I mean to you. Mm-hmm. And what I mean to so many watching at home.
I was not under anesthesia, so therefore. What is your gripe that you had? You said you had a gripe.
Yeah, so actually, let's get to a timeout, and then I'll come back with my gripe. Because I have this gripe, and it's a weird gripe, I'll admit, but it's a gripe.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it when we come back. It's Corey and Schultz, presented by Bain Leonwood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bain.
Corey and Schultz, Bain Leonwood Financial Group.
By the way, Thomas E. Schaefer was the Iran hostage whose bracelet I wore from Falls Church, Virginia.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't become like pen pals with him. Because
I did actually exchange an email with him in 2007.
Okay. Yeah, you got so many weird connections like that. Very weird. So we were talking about my gripes. So we teased it. We're actually going to pay it off because a lot of times we tease stuff on the show.
So
and we
1
don't
to
pay it
10, 10 being I completely agree with your gripe, and 1 being that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I will rate your gripe.
Oh, it's got to be like a 1.5. I'm just going to tell you what it is because it's so stupid. So the Pacers sent out a social post yesterday, and it was the players, like getting to know the players for the NBA Finals, just for, general audiences or whatever. And it's like favorite food, favorite, I don't know, music, whatever. And one of them was favorite vacation spot. And Ben Shepherd, his favorite vacation spot is Cape Cod, right? They listed it as Cape Cod, comma, MA. And I know this is a weird gripe, but like those man on the street interviews are like, hey, where are you from? And when somebody says Chicago, Illinois, I don't need the Illinois. There's only one Chicago. When people ask me, where do you live? Like even when it's like a customer service rep or something in a completely different state, and they're like, hey, give me your home address. I never say Indianapolis, Indiana. I say Indianapolis. Because I think there's an Indianapolis, Oklahoma that's like an unincorporated township. There's only one Indianapolis. Cape Cod is Cape Cod. There's no other Cape Cod. It doesn't need a Massachusetts. I don't need New York, New York.
However, Derek, you're showing a little East Coast here, and I'll tell you why.
Is there a Cape Cod, Michigan that I don't know about?
No, but just for example, the other day on Facebook, somebody posted a picture of a basketball net, and it said, perfected in Indiana, invented in Connecticut. And I replied and said it was invented in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I do think that because you grew up in the East, and I don't disagree with you fundamentally, I think certainly where you are from, there's no doubt that Cape Cod is Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I mean, I think most people do know that. But I think that when you get west of probably Pittsburgh, there are a lot of people that Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware becomes all kind of the same.
Yeah.
And so I could see how some people may be like, Cape Cod, is that Connecticut or is that off of Rhode Island?
I'm using that as a window into my overall gripe, though.
I've never been to Cape Cod. Is it nice?
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's what
What's it like in the winter there?
not great.
How long is the summer there?
I'm using that
like
into
2
a
weeks of
window
summer?
into my gripe. No, the summer's longer than that. But like where we go, and it's north of Cape Cod, but like where we go in York and Maine, on the southern coast of Maine, basically their tourist season is essentially 8 weeks. It's June 1st.
Is the water ever warm enough to go in?
Yeah. It's more shallow than lakes. So like Lake Michigan is, even in July, is freezing, right? For the most part, or it's cold because it's so deep.
Right.
But on the coastline, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just using, look, Cape Cod's not as good of an example as Chicago or New York or something like that, right? Where there's international known that I know what state that is, or I know where that is. I was just using, I saw the Cape Cod, Massachusetts yesterday, and that's why I thought
What's the biggest city in the world that is the most immediately recognized name, city, and people can even picture what it looks like, that is the most confusing to remember what country it's in?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Jakarta?
Dubai?
Dubai's a good one.
Yeah?
Dubai's a really good one. That's probably Dubai, right?
Yeah?
Because that's United Arab Emirates, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm 98% sure that that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah. But like all those other ones, like, you see a picture of the Eiffel Tower, you know that's in France. Paris is in France.
Right.
Or Big Ben in London's in the UK. Like, yeah, that's actually a really
Okay,
that's a good question.
Singapore and Hong Kong are good, but those are independent city nations, right? I mean, Hong Kong now is now under Chinese control. It was formerly British. Singapore is also an independent city nation, is it not?
Yeah. What about well, I mean, I don't know if you see something.
Jakarta is Indonesia, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Is Semporna Indonesia?
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Yeah. What about like Brussels?
It's Belgium.
Yeah, I don't know.
I went to Brussels and I had two things.
I don't know if you'd see a picture and be like, "That's Brussels," though, right?
No,
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
Brussels, when I was there, Derek.
Yeah.
So Shannon and I were in Holland, and we wanted to drive to Luxembourg. So we drove literally, this would be like going from Chicago to Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
And Belgium is Indiana. You go right through it.
Really?
Right?
Oh, cool.
So we stopped in Brussels, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna spend the night in Brussels. We'll go out. And there was a historic part of it that was neat. We went to a restaurant. It was actually called the Drug Emporium, but it was a fabulous restaurant, one of the best restaurants I've ever been to.
I mean, I'd get drugs in Brussels for sure. It's
no,
like
no,
everything's legal.
No,
right?
That's Amsterdam. No, we were in Amsterdam. This was just
Okay.
Belgium, Brussels.
Gotcha, okay.
Brussels, Belgium.
Yeah.
So we go into this restaurant called the Drug Emporium, though.
Yeah.
And I got a waffle because it's Belgium. Right?
Is that street slang for what? Is that smack? What is that?
No, a Belgian waffle, just like a pancake with squares for your syrup.
And you smoke or snort? Or
No,
what do
you
you
just
or
eat
you shoot
it. You just eat it, and then
Okay.
and then they had chocolate, high-end chocolate, literally chocolate like Hershey's, but in Belgium.
Yeah, Hershey's. That's good. Okay. Was it rich?
It was rich. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
And then, but Brussels was like Atlanta. It was just hotels and office buildings. That was it.
Boo.
Yes, I know. I was totally disappointed.
Boo.
Now, Antwerp and Bruges in Belgium are apparently fabulous, but
Okay,
those are like
okay.
up in
So
different areas.
Brussels is corporate.
Correct.
Okay,
Brussels
gotcha.
is the economic headquarters of the European Union.
Okay, see, I had no idea. I barely have any European knowledge just in general.
Actually,
I'm not
Luxem-
well traveled internationally.
Actually, Luxembourg City, I believe, is the economic headquarters, but Belgium is the governmental headquarters of the European Union.
That's good to know. Because to me, like every European city is just like 2 or 3 story historic buildings with little cafes and and then you just get a pile of
Brussels was very disappointing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll show you a picture of Brussels.
That's good to know. Let's get to some quick hits here. Another IndyCar flag. Do you see this? Ferrucci's car.
I saw that.
Failed post-race tech after Detroit due to a weight
Fairly
issue.
minor violation.
Yeah, he was 1 pound over. 25 grand, docked 25 entry and driver points, but still bad timing for him, right? This would normally be a footnote, but because we've had a lot of these issues with the Indy 500 qualifying and then post-race tech for the 500 as well. So just bringing it up for poor Santino, Connecticut guy. The top 2 teams of the college baseball tournament are out. That's
Let me guess.
rare.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Oh, they're out, meaning they've been eliminated.
They didn't even make super regionals, which is very rare.
Okay, top 2 teams.
Yeah. Men's college baseball.
Tennessee.
No. Great guess.
Clemson. No. Fresno State.
No.
Florida.
No.
Uh,
Like, this is a baseball powerhouse. This is the only sport that they're good
Texas.
at. Texas is one, yeah. They're number 2.
Mississippi State.
No.
Wichita State.
No.
Indiana State. No,
This
they're
is
not
the
good.
only thing that they're really good at. They're a power conference school, but this is immediately identifiable with them, this sport. The major revenue sports they always struggle in.
Boy.
Really neat campus. It's an Ivy League level school.
Stanford. Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vandy. Vandy was the other team that lost. Vandy lost to the Horizon League champ, Wright State.
Did they really?
Yeah. And you know who Texas lost to? A team in Texas.
A&M.
Great mascot.
TCU.
No, a smaller school, but it's regionals.
Okay. Lamar.
No.
Sam Houston State.
No. They have a great mascot. Meep, meep.
Oh, UTSA.
UTSA. Roadrunners.
That's kind of cool.
Beat Texas in their home state, too.
Don't let
And then
those guys
finally,
get on the base path.
Oklahoma softball's reign is finally over. They lost in the semifinals. First time since 2018. They will not make the College World Series championship. They lost to Texas Tech. So Texas v. Texas Tech in the women's softball championship. Pretty cool. Neither team has ever won a softball national title. Congratulations to those 2 schools. We come back, bite or bowl bleep, and we will tie a bow here on episode 239 of Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in, it's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC,
Nice snap.
mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time here on Corey and Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. Presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Thanks for watching, whether it's on ISC Sports Network, iscsportsnetwork.com. Maybe you're streaming us on one of the social channels, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, X. We're on all of those. Maybe you're listening on podcasts.
What
so
about
you
the
can't even see us
Periscope?
right now.
What about the Periscope?
Periscope went away.
What about the Vine?
Vine went away a long time ago. Facebook Live still Facebook Live? It's something like
Think it's-
different, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I liked Periscope. Periscope was one of the first to be like, if I remember right, that was before YouTube started doing live.
Is Zoom still a thing?
Oh, yeah. I still do Zoom calls.
But now it's Teams.
My work lives on Teams. So everything that I do with my day job at Purdue is Teams, which is fine too, even though I prefer Zoom. But I still use Zoom. Like IBJ interviews, I do on Zoom largely. And every once in a while, I'll have a work call that is not with somebody directly affiliated with Purdue that's via Zoom.
I don't understand, though, like when people want to talk to you and so they Zoom
I don't like WebEx. I don't like some of those other ones.
Excuse me?
Some of those other like virtual call ones. I don't like.
That WebEx, I thought now you've got to sign in to prove you're 18 for that now in Indiana, right?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'm not even paying attention to the current laws right now because they're just some of them are completely depressing. Let's get to Bite or Bold Bleep. It's brought to you by Chateau Kitchens right behind us. Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook, just at Chateau Kitchens for before and after pictures. In-home transformations, that's what they do. If you've got an in-home project, whether it be a kitchen, Chateau Kitchens, a bathroom, a wet bar, a basement, anything on the interior of your home, ChateauKitchens.com. Reach out to Stephen Moore and his crew. Stephen, a huge Pacers fan, went to Game 6 with Sammy Agee.
Nice.
Remember our old buddy?
Yeah,
they're old
dude.
Ball State buds. So the owner of Chateau and Sammy Agee are BFFs. Yeah, Sam is still in D.C., right?
Yes. Sunderland is his soccer club.
I know. I haven't seen him in a minute. Whereas I got to catch up with Sammy Rumsa at the Indy 500.
And then Jimmy.
Sam's a great dude. And then Jimmy, Sean Nash. Yeah, who you called Jimmy the entire summer, even though his name was Sean.
Looks like a folk singer now.
And lives in Colorado. Yeah, he grew out his hair, and he's an interesting guy.
He's a good dude.
We had a great run of interns over there.
I think Jimmy, Sean Nash, might be my favorite of that group.
Really?
Yeah.
Sam Rumsa is my all-time favorite intern.
He's a good dude.
The only problem with Sam Rumsa as an intern was that every single task that I gave to him, he completed in 45 seconds. And one of the points of having an intern is that you want them to take work off your table, but he was so good and so quick with it that it was like, oh God, I got to find something else. I think I had Sam clean our fridge one day.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, he's here, I got to have him do something, and he cleaned out our fridge, which is awful. It had mold, and John McDonald left like chicken salad in there one time. Yeah. It was bad. Bite or Bold Bleep, here's what we do. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it is Bold Bleep. The winner of the Pacers Thunder series, the franchise player, gets to claim the new face of the NBA. Buy it or Bold Bleep?
Bull Schultz.
Yeah, because I don't think Haliburton will ever be the face of the NBA. I just don't think he's that type of player, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like, the face of the NBA has to be like the alpha of alpha dogs. And Haliburton is a tremendous player, but he's not Kobe, he's not Jordan, he's not LeBron. He's not not that personality.
Honestly, typically the face of an NBA player is a guy that scores in dynamic fashion.
Yeah, and that's what I mean though.
Right.
Where he's such a unicorn.
How about this?
He's such a facilitator.
How about this? The NBA Finals most valuable player will be an American-born guy.
Ooh. I mean, SGA and Siakam would have to be 1 and 3 in the odds, right? So you're basically taking those two of the field. I think I'm going to say
Nembhard, Mathurin.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say Bold Bleep. I mean, it'd be a reach to think that Mathurin or Nembhard would win.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of who else on the Thunder would be.
They have one other Canadian-born player, I believe, right?
Do they?
Well, I mean, Hartenstein, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to say no. Well, Dort is he Canadian though?
I can't remember.
He is? Okay. He's an international player because he
yeah.
has some name that's first name that's really, really tough to say.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm going to take the field. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's a non-American.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to say that.
All right, your turn. Go ahead.
I actually didn't have a third one.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
I didn't have a third one. Yeah, that was a good one. You come up with one more. We've got, 90 seconds maybe, tops.
The NBA Finals ratings will not
I don't care.
be the lowest of the last 10 years.
You know what? I'm going to say buy it.
I agree.
Yeah, and I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. If you don't like basketball and you don't like this series, there's something wrong with you.
I would agree with that.
And I'm not saying that because, you're in Indianapolis, so of course you're going to think it's great. I think it's great because it's great.
Yeah.
It's great basketball. Great teams. Thanks to our great sponsors, Chateau Kitchens, Hoagies and Hops, and Chili Water Brewing, as well as our friends at Bailey
Go
and Wood
into Hoagies
Financial
and Hops,
Group.
tell Christina hi, get a chili water beer while you're there.
Yeah.
Patronize
delicious
both.
Sando.
And while you're there, look up Chateau Kitchens and think to yourself, this is exactly what I want to have put into my new home that I'm going to purchase and do some reno. And maybe that home you're going to get a great value on it because, yeah, you're going to have some renovations to do, but you're going to get a great rate from Bailey & Wood, so you're going to be covered.
There you go.
Right?
For Jake, I'm Derek. For Vince, Rake, everybody.
Let's go, Pacers.
Corey and Schultz.
Let's
ISC
go.
Sports Network. See you next week.
Let's
Bye.
go.
At Bailey &